In April of 2017, I supported the Home Rule Charter and voted to elect 9 members on its commission. Similar to the Home Rule Charter effort that commenced in 2002, I commend this Home Rule Charter Commission for also holding 60 meetings, using a website, holding information sessions. Per state mandates, each commission dedicates countless hours to make sure that it obtains feedback from citizens, informed residents, etc. The hours dedicated by each of its members are greatly appreciated. Although I voted to approve our current Home Rule Charter process and appreciate their time, it does not mean that I automatically approve of its proposal that they've presented to us. There are 2 parts of the process: the formation of the commission and also what it proposes. I also strive to keep an open mind and seek information to answer any questions and address any concerns. Since reading the proposal of this Home Rule Charter, I have concerns. Yes, I'm a member of Representative Town Meeting, RTM, and I've been on it for years, but please note it's only given me insight into how our town government operates. I've seen how residents seek assistance and rely on our local government. I've also seen that this is why it's important for me to have kept an open mind to hear what the commissioners shared for the rationale used to form its proposal. In reading the proposal, my first question that was raised in looking at the booklet were how many surveys were gathered in order to obtain the responses used to present the percentages that were outlined in the booklet. Our town, per the 2010 census, has 28,172 residents. For the 2017 annual report, 19,528 registered voters and 1,741 employees. The results referenced in the survey were collected in 2017 and were from 148 respondents, 130 residents, and 18 department heads who reside outside of our town. In 2016, Fall River's Charter Commission mailed its survey with its city annual census that gets sent out and received greater than a 10% response. I wish that we had taken a similar approach because we only have less than a 1% response, which makes it harder to ensure a valid sample size with a smaller number of responses. I also knew that for the Home Rule Charter to appear on the ballot in April of 2017, that it required just over 3,000 certified signatures from our town's registered voters, and that it took from July through December of 2016, that's 5 months, to get the required number of certified signatures. That's why I was wondering why the Commission's efforts for its survey from August to December of 2017, 4 months, only obtained feedback from 148 respondents. I know that they tried hard to get the word out, to seek input from residents, and that's why I would have loved to have had a much higher response for the approach taken by Fall River's Charter Commission. My next step was to look at other communities in our state who've adopted the proposed form of government, as well as to familiarize myself with other charters that it reviewed. When the commission started the process, there were 9 communities with a council manager form of government in our state. And looking at other communities who have this form of government, I also looked at charters that the Charter Commission reviewed. Randolph is one of them and has a council manager form of government. I noticed how the Commission referenced Randolph in its meeting minutes, and I watched said meeting in July of 2017. Since Randolph changed its form of government in 2008, I wanted to see how it's been doing with the change. Its town manager recently resigned 2 years into his 5-year term in December 2018 and opted to take a significant pay cut to work in Quincy in a different role. When residents were upset to learn of his resignation, a meeting was held and residents voiced concern about the council manager form of government. Per Randolph's local newspaper, in an article in 2019, residents expressed concerns about communications between town council and its residents. Some also felt that there should be a committee to help increase voter turnout for electing its members. It also suggested including professional development for town council members and training for new members. It made me concerned thinking about whether this change would be the best fit for our community. Our state has 351 municipalities. Of these, 10 of them have a council manager form of government today. 8 of these 10 have at least a portion of its council being per district, the councilors where they have councilors allocated per district, ward, or precinct, as well as a portion at large. I would have preferred for the proposed charter to ensure equal representation in its town council with a councillor per precinct as well as at-large councillors. Per precinct councillors have great knowledge and interest in the issues of their local precinct, as well as having an interest in the overall community as a resident of North Attleboro. This would also provide more accessibility for the residents of the precinct they represent. With an at-large representation only on the council, voters may feel they aren't adequately represented. To include per precinct councillors as well as at-large councillors on town council, it allows for a more diverse set of councillors and keeps a better pulse on the residents throughout the entire community. Without it, I fear there's a potential for an interest group to dominate the council, and that's per feedback that I read on a charter for another town outside of our state. Another concern that I had reading the proposed charter is the smaller size of its legislative body. As a member of Representative Town Meeting, RTM, I'm familiar with the importance of open meeting law. For the proposed charter, any four of the councillors can meet out of the public view to discuss business and not be in conflict with open meeting law. With a proposed 9-member town council, only 5 members is a simple majority. Sorry. As residents, we no longer receive the free press, and as we know, the Sun Chronicle has slimmed down a bit too. With a proposed charter's aim to minimize community involvement in our local government, I feel that transparency is lost with a smaller legislative body. How are we as residents going to have continued trust in our government if it's easier to have 44% of the legislative body meet outside of the public view to discuss matters that pertain to our community and impact us? After this, I tried understanding why the Commission was pushing so hard for a change through its findings. I remembered that the data collected from the survey was in 2017, with signatures collected in 2016. I recall that an override effort failed in 2015, which closed an elementary school and continued to heighten concerns about our library's certification, potential increases to response times by emergency personnel, and a NEASC warning for our high school's accreditation that were all prevalent during the time that this data was collected. We talked about the need for an economic development person and the need for an override. So again, signatures were collected in 2016, survey results were gathered in 2017, the override passed in 2018. As a result of the override passing, our library has its certification. Our high school is no longer in its warning status with NEASC, and our police and fire departments have funds to ensure response times don't increase. And we hired a full-time economic development person. When you read the feedback from the 148 respondents, please put that information in perspective to where we were then versus now. My concern now is that we're potentially having a changing of the guards in our government while being reassured that this proposed charter is budget neutral. If for some reason the town manager proposed a budget that isn't budget neutral, remember that our tax levy is only able to increase by 2.5% each year unless we pass another override or underride in a town election. Where will the additional fund come from for an increased budget? Which departments and/or employees will be missing funds that are relying on them today? Again, I'm an open-minded person and I'm not against change. However, I feel that the proposed charter distances itself from the public too much. It provides the opportunity for more meetings to happen outside of the public view. A simple majority of town council is only 5 votes. The at-large only representation on the town council limits input from councilors in all areas of our town. I feel that this charter was too aggressive in its quest to provide power to a select few, and as a result, our local government will lose its pulse on the community. Although I commend the efforts of the Charter Commission, I do not support its proposal. Any proposed changes to the existing proposed charter is also not as easy as has been implied. Remember the amount of time and mentions it took for the collection of those certified signatures from registered voters? Therefore, I'm voting no on the charter on April 2nd.